served its purpose. Enough advanced ideas have been developed that could be incorporated in their production cars for years. Besides, there was no race competition left. They hadn't won. But before the axe fell, the EX135 had been built. It was MG's most advanced record-breaking car, sporting a futuristic, streamlined design that would later be seen on cars from Mercedes and Outer Union. For years, it was campaigned by private owners before it finally fell into the hands of Major Goldie Gardner. With a supercharged engine, Gardner piloted the EX135 to a record-breaking speed of 206 miles per hour on the Autobahn. The factory at Abingdon was also getting ready for the future with the introduction of the MG TA, the replacement for the Midget series of cars. Unfortunately, the TA wasn't received that well. And by the time the improved MG TB was unveiled, the world was at war. When the war started in 1939, the MG factory turned all its production to armaments. One of the first assignments was repairing Matilda tanks. In 1941, MG won a contract to assemble cockpits for British bombers. When the flames of war were finally extinguished, England faced a difficult challenge: how to rebuild. Prior to the outbreak of war, MG had announced the TC, the replacement for the TB. Despite the fact that the car was obviously dated, both mechanically and in appearance, the young war veterans who wanted to try their hand at rallying snatched up the cars. MG was aware that the more cars they could export, the more raw materials they would be allocated. They began a worldwide sales effort in order to earn much-needed hard currency. American GIs returning from Europe launched an MG phenomenon in the United States. Some of these young men had seen the MGs on their tours overseas and fell in love with the low-slung, fun-to-drive cars. The MGTC became very popular with drivers in the States. For many Americans, this was the first foreign car they'd ever seen. In the days after the war, there weren't many new cars available in America. Detroit had stopped production in 1942 to focus on the war effort. The cars that were available were large, unwieldy family sedans. The MGTC was the perfect antidote for the post-war blues. It was a tiny jewel of a car that handled well, got good gas mileage, and was fun to drive. The US market was very important to MG. The post-war economic boom meant that Americans could easily afford the MG, and more sales meant more resources to build new cars. The plan worked. In the car's 4-year production run, 10,000 TCs were built. More than half of those ended up in the United States. The success of the MG sparked a British car avalanche in the United States. Jaguar unveiled their new XK120, a production sports car that could hit 120 miles per hour. For the budget-conscious, there was the Triumph TR2. For the more affluent enthusiast, Aston Martin offered the most luxurious, sexy sports car money could buy, the DB2. All of these cars had been developed after the war and had a decidedly modern look compared to the MGs. MG continued to build the T-Series, offering up minor updates, like independent front suspension with the TD, and some slight cosmetic changes on the TF. But by 1953, the MGs looked like relics. It was time to bring some excitement back to the Mark. Once again, MG set its sights on speed records. This time at the Bonneville Salt Flats outside Wendover, Utah. The MG EX-179 resembled the pre-war record-breaking car of Major Goldie Gardner, but it had a larger, more efficient engine. The hopes were to break a series of Class F records. After the first day, the car with Ken Miles and Johnny Lockett broke the 12-hour world speed record, clocking 141.81 miles per hour. The next day, the team went after the Class F sprint record. Officiating the event was the United States Auto Club. With Ken Miles behind the wheel, the retuned EX-179 reached a record-breaking 170.15 miles per hour, almost 10 miles an hour faster than the old record. In just 2 days, the MG broke 16 international and 47 American national records. MG was also experimenting with a new streamlined design for their next generation of sports cars, the MGAs. These sexy new cars were rolled out for the first time for the 1955 Le Mans. These aluminum-bodied prototypes finished 5th and 6th in their class and heralded a new era for MG. The MGAs found their way onto the rally circuit, a mainstay of MG racing. Here, they proved that they were competent successors to the T-Series. The public couldn't wait to get their hands on this new car. Revitalized by the success of the MGA, the company launched the EX-181 in 1957. It was the most advanced record-breaking car they'd ever produced. With racing legend Stirling Moss at the wheel, this all-British team set its sights on exceeding 240 miles per hour.